Welcome to the Caribbean Property Investing Podcast, where we share real-life experiences for successful Caribbean property entrepreneurs. Learn about their successes, challenges, and strategies to help you create your plan for financial freedom. Now let's get started.
Welcome to episode 1 of Caribbean Property Investing Podcast. My name is Ansel Mathra from St. Lucia, and I want to thank you for coming on this journey with us. Where did the idea for this podcast come from? I'm 47 years old, and I've been investing in property for the last 16 years. And the things I've learned, I just felt that everyone interested in having a better quality of life, everyone interested in getting financial freedom, should know. And the things that I wish that I was taught earlier, I'm just trying to share. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, and all I'm trying to do is share some of my discoveries, share some of my mistakes, with the hope that it will inspire and help others. My first investment property was my home with my late wife, and it was a 3,200 square feet house, 3 floors. We lived in the middle and the upper floor, and the ground floor was supposed to be, my man cave with, big surround sound, huge speakers, big screen TV, pool table, the works. At the time, my daughter was less than a year. My first child, we have a son. So my daughter is now 16, and my son is 13. But a very good friend of mine said to me, why do you need to use that space as a man cave? I said, what do you mean? I work hard, and I come home, I want to have my own sanctuary, I want to have some peace of mind where I can just go away, get away and veg. With no disturbances, even though I have a small child in the house, by the way. And he said, you must be mad. This is something that Americans do. This man cave concept is not for Caribbean people. It's a luxury that we can't afford. Of course, I didn't agree with him. But I listened. And he told me what I should do is put an apartment on the ground floor. We lived on a slope, and that was his idea. So I said, okay, let me go to the bank. At the time, the mortgage was about $6,000. We were paying an extra $1,000. So it's $5,000, paying extra $1,000 on about $650,000 for the bill. The estimate for the apartment downstairs, and we would add a pool, was $100,000. I remember going to the bank and asking, how much more would $100,000 cost per month? And it turns out it was going to be less than $100, like $69 a month. Something didn't sit right. So I started asking, well, okay, so if it's only $69 a month, I'm going to be paying more. How much will I be paying for the entire mortgage? There was some reluctance, by the account manager in the bank to tell me what's my full amortized payout to the bank over 20-25 years. In the end, it turned out that we would be paying the bank about 3 times the cost of the mortgage, 3 to 4 times the cost of the mortgage. So on $600,000, $700,000, now that we added $100,000 for the downstairs apartment, we'll be paying something like $2.1 million. And I'm not an accountant. I went to business school, but I never thought about the actual amount of money we'll be paying at the end, because you're so excited. It's your first home. You're married. You want this house with view, and I started thinking. Something went off in my brain. My brain started going really berserk when I found out that I'll be paying you more than 2 million EC dollars. So I said, but if I'm paying you more than 2 million EC dollars, Eastern Caribbean dollars, it means that I'm earning more than 2 million Eastern Caribbean dollars. And if I'm earning that amount of money, why should I be giving it to a financial institution? And then something went off in my brain. I started reading books. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it's a popular book by a staple book for almost all property investors all over the world. And the general concept is that you build assets to bring back cash to you. A home is not an asset, it's a liability, and just kind of reorient your brain for you to move from one quadrant where you are an employee to become an investor. That book changed my life, changed the mind of my late wife, who was my partner at the time, and I never looked back. So we went ahead, built the apartment and the pool for $100,000, and within 6 months of my new, $6,000 plus mortgage, I was getting almost 50% of it paid off by a tenant downstairs. Not intrusive, went down the hill, had separate parking, separate entrances. I never saw them. I got interested right away because there you are, living where you're living, happy where you're living, and you have someone paying up to 50% of your mortgage. I was always buying land. And looking back, as I developed, it was maybe not the best idea, because when you have 3 or 4 pieces of land that you're probably paying a mortgage for, at one time I think I had something like 4 or 5 mortgages, you're really just dishing out cash. And what I've learned since then is actually you buy one piece of land, you put something on it, you make it pay for itself, then you go to the next. But this podcast is going to introduce us to all these concepts. It's going to introduce us to people from across the Caribbean who would have done, amazingly well, and ordinary people, normal working class people. I'm a full-time telecoms executive, and property investing is my passion, my side hustle, but it really is something I genuinely enjoy. And I really wanted to develop a podcast where we can showcase the journeys of people who were able to do more for their family. Now, in terms of why I invest in property, it's really for, of course, security. It's an opportunity to have more disposable income. It's an opportunity to create a true asset that you can use and leverage later on, if it's for a loan for your children to go to school. Also because it's something that I can see. And there's so many stages in the property development process. There's the research phase, there is the creative phase, there is the hardcore, in the trenches, real detailed numbers stage, and of course there's the design stage, decoration stage, and of course sales, rental, calculating return on investment, calculating rental yield, calculating capital growth. It's a broad spectrum which we're all going to cover, in this podcast. Separating apart from the house and then the apartment, I was buying lots, small lots, with the idea, like many other Caribbean people, to use later on for retirement. A lot of Caribbean people have this dream that we're going to have land and have apartments later on, and mine those apartments when we're 65. It's a little more challenging than I think most of us actually think. So as I was always on the lookout for land. Every Saturday I'd go driving. Every weekend I'd get the papers and I'd look for lots. I had a simple criteria in the north of the island, which was growing. It had to have a sea view, because I believe sea view from my own comfort level is is almost like my recession buffer. So when all else fails, many people, when looking for a property to buy or to rent, if it has a sea view and it's close to the developing part of the island, close to supermarkets, close to cinema, close to the main highway, close to main shopping and restaurants, you kind of have a buffer, against a recession. But of course, no plan is foolproof. But that was my sort of criteria for looking for lots. Essentially, I would not go more than 50 to 75,000 US, so between 150 to 170,000 dollars, which you can pay back in a loan or a land loan for 10 years. And typically in St. Lucia and other Caribbean islands, you could get loans for land in those types of areas with very little security, maybe 5%, or also no money down because the land is used as security. So that was my strategy. But as I grew older and I got to meet more property investors, I realized that buying 3-4 plots of land without having them generate any cash or any income was not the best strategy. Interestingly, those same investors, seasoned property developers, said, but why are you waiting for until you retire at 65? And more than that, how do you know that you're going to live to see 65? And the message was really to start doing something on it now if you could. So outside of my home, which is my first investment, I went on to do a 4-apartment block. But even before I speak about that, some people may be asking, okay, well, how did you fund the first one? And it's simple. A couple of things. One, if you're fortunate, you meet somebody, you have a partner, and you pool your resources. And that part I'm talking about, it could be a family member, it could be a relative, it could be a friend, it could be a straight business partner. Just make sure you have the contracts properly developed and signed. In my case, I guess it was a marriage contract. So you had 2 income earners came together, put in their disposable income as well as the bank credit, and you're able to get land and you're able to get a loan of good enough value. An important point to note in terms of how I think, I don't recommend, if it's not pure business, that a couple who are in a relationship, boyfriend and girlfriend, actually buy joint property, unless you have a company or unless you have, a structure, a legal structure in place. Because if things don't go well, then you have a messy separation. Whereas if you have a company, you can probably sell shares, you can probably, have an easier legal path for divesting or separating, your shares or stakeholding in it. So there I was with a number of lots and a house where I lived, put in an apartment. But now that I know that it's risky having those lots and not doing anything with them, and again, those lots were funded by mortgages because you're working and you got loans. I was never really, interested in luxury vehicles or that type of lifestyle, because I always knew that it was better to have, a long-term investment. And I always felt that way. We have an expression in St. Lucia, maybe Dominica as well, and other Creole-speaking islands. And the expression is te pakapui, means land doesn't rot. In other words, land will always maintain its value or increase in value unless, there's some catastrophic change, like a highway passing in the middle of it, or a major development, or somebody come to build a poultry farm or a pig farm. next to you. So, okay, on to the next development. So, next development I was watching for a number of years. It was a 22,000 square foot of lot close to where I live. Again, on the highway, the main highway to the north, with an amazing sea view. I couldn't afford to buy the 22,000 square feet of land. So I approached the owner, had some discussions, and they agreed to cut it for me into 4 lots. And again, I bought 1 lot every 6 months, and again, loan. But I now recognize that, okay, now that you have these lots in an area where you believe you can get good rental, potential, good sales if you have to, you need to do something, you need to build something on it. At the time, I was heavily leveraged, and you couldn't get financing. So, I had to go to a tax-free jurisdiction. And it was go to a country where there was no income tax, and that would give you a little more room to negotiate with the bank and more disposable income. It took me more than 2 years to get financing, but when I did, we developed 4 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath condos, with a view to do 8 more. There was that, and then thereafter I went to I sold my first house, recognizing that I will never again have just a primary place of residence without an income suite in it. And then we took some time, maybe 8 years, to convince my late wife then, for us to do something different. So we sold the house, bought a lot next door, and then we did something like 4 floors, 7 units. But not at the same time, obviously. So because we sold the house, we now could get a new mortgage for a home, our primary place of residence. So we got that mortgage, and over time, we built the other units below. So that went on, and then we built the most recent development, which is 3 units, again designed for 2 units, but I thought there was an opportunity for rental. So instead of having 2 3-floor, 3-bedroom units, we had 2 2-floor, and the last floor, instead of having 2 master suites, we joined it to make a 3rd apartment. And the objective here always is to create good value, great location, modern, comfortable, desirable accommodation that would rent easily, and that rent obviously must be more than the mortgage. That would help you get some additional disposable income, and grow. So in a nutshell, that has been the property journey. As the podcast goes on, as we interview more guests, you will hear more and more details about these projects, as we learn collectively. I really hope that you can tell a friend and share first episode, which really is an introduction, because there are lots of Caribbean people who are just itching and aching to make a move, to get to the next level, of their own financial journey. Things are changing as well, increasingly, and I try to get on the cusp of that wave. Increasingly, a lot of young millennial professionals do not necessarily want standalone homes, and more you're having condos, multifamily developments, becoming more and more popular, more and more desirable. Also, people just don't want the headache of managing a house. Anybody who has a house standalone, they will tell you it can be quite involved. Maintenance, repairs, it's a lot. Moreover, these same millennial professionals, young and upwardly mobile professionals, some of them actually might just prefer to rent only. just rent. The money, instead of investing in a long-term fixed asset, as an income earning property, they may want to use that money for experiences and really live as full a life as possible. You can't blame anybody for choosing that to be the life's course, but if that's not what you want to do, then definitely this podcast is for you. So feel free to send feedback, send comments, let us know what you're interested in. We will keep on interviewing, as many people from as far as Cayman Islands, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, all the way down to Grenada, St. Vincent, Trinidad, and even Guyana, just to share our stories, to inspire others, let people know that there is a way for you to spend more time with your family, to own your time, to travel more, to see more places, to do more, to be more. And that can be done through property investing if you are committed, if you are patient, if you are disciplined, and if you're willing to put in the work. The rewards are on the other side. So that's all for me. Until next time, look out for us next week, where we're going to come up with the Caribbean Property Investing Podcast, episode 2.
Congratulations and thank you for tuning in to the Caribbean's first property investing podcast. We want to help Caribbean people create wealth and achieve financial freedom through property investing. Our show provides general advice based on personal experiences and is for educational purposes only. For more information, resources, and past episodes, visit us at CaribbeanPropertyInvesting.com. Remember to click the subscribe button so you never miss a show. Let's go.